you've spoken about having kind of this consistent set of KPIs and unified set of KPIs across go-to-market teams. I'm curious to get your perspectives, like, how do you actually achieve that to enable you to make better decision making, et cetera, et cetera?
You hire really smart people. Very, very important,
That
right?
helps with a lot of things. Yeah.
Smart people figure things out, right? And I do think in a lot of areas where I've said, hey, this is kind of how I want to look at the data. This is what I want to think about. And then, I have a couple of really incredible people on the team who then take it one step further, right? So we have just an incredible process running for our monthly and our quarterly retros. We're like, essentially now the month and the quarter closes and we just create it, right? Like back in the day when we were spending like hours and hours and days creating QBR decks and polls and this, like we don't do that. It takes one person an hour and a half because it's just
Yeah.
pre-built, right? When you can do things like that, you're spending your time fixing the problem, not finding the problem. Right?
Exactly.
That has been a real huge unlock for us is like being able to create data like that where we can really quickly see like all of the pacing and how things are going all the way through the funnel and even looking back, be like, okay, where are we ahead or behind? Even as we're going through the month and the quarter, where are we ahead and behind? And being able to do that quickly without a lot of bodies makes a big difference. The other thing I would say on the data side is I feel lucky to have leadership on the CRO and also on the chief customer side where we see the data, bring the data, make a recommendation, and we can just go. I think that also can paralyze companies is they get paralyzed in looking at the data and debating outcomes.
I'm saying, oh, can I see a cut of like this? Can I see a cut like that?
Yeah, can I and, like, there's always more data, 1, and number 2, like, I don't wanna say I can make the data look however I want, but you can really tell a lot of different stories, right? And so that's what we try to focus on is, like, agree to what are we gonna look at, how are we gonna think about it, and then how are we gonna say, like, "Okay, this is what we need to do."
Yeah.
And I think there's an element of, you there's the execution element of like, "Hey, we wanna increase these types of transactions," or, "We wanna try to, like, look at ASP in this bucket," or, whatever lever we're trying to pull. I'm sort of taking that and be like applying something from April into May for the sales team or for the success team. But then there's the sort of like, okay, for long-term planning, and this gets back to what I talked about in the beginning, like really focusing with the CRO and in some cases the CEO around, hey, we're going to try to pull this lever and do this to this bucket. I think as we think about our 3-year plan, we have to really think about where we put headcount, right? So there's sort of two sides to that coin, and you don't really want to mix them because the people that are executing that we need to make the year got to focus on that. And then the 3-year plan is like, you don't want to distract. So that I think is a big piece is like making sure that you're using the data with the right audience for the right conversation at the right time. And I don't always do that. I try my best. But those, I think there's just, you want to make sure that you're doing the day to day. And then you're also thinking about what does this mean long term?
Yeah. I mean, I think what helps is if you get alignment on what the decision making process is up front, because then you go in, there's a very clear, like, what is the threshold for us as an organization to make a decision? That way it frames it up as, hey, we're going in, we have this information that's required to make a decision. Then it really sets the standard. And then you're not now in this cycle of like, you can never have the perfect answer. There's always more data. There's more analysis that you can do.